we're going to talk about expanding beyond selling pipe and fusion equipment. Okay, so Jeff, what do you mean by that? We'll talk about that in a second. But I do want to talk about something Dave opened up with this morning, and how enthusiastic he was this morning in the meeting. So the past couple of years, my wife comes up to me before infusion, and she's like, "What do you guys do? Do you guys like get psyched up for infusion? Do you like go, everybody's working for infusion?" So every week for the past couple of years, my wife comes in, she does that. I shared it with Sharon and Chip one time, and they would text her and make fun of her and tease her, like, "When are you going to come do the show?" And so this morning, my wife came up to me and she goes, are you really enthusiastic to go to the show today? And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm totally telling Sharon that. So I told Sharon and Dave, and he opened up the morning session with it, which she's thoroughly embarrassed about. So it's fantastic, but I love it. So it's fantastic and enthusiastic. So anyway, I'm Jeff Turner. I'm the sales channel manager for the polypropylene products. Pretty much the low force machines that are metric sizes that can be used on a lot of the high purity piping systems and polypropylene and things of that nature. And today I'll talk about how we can expand different ideas on our mindset on how to just past selling pipe and machines. So does anybody know what this is? It is a cash cow. That is great. It is a cash cow, okay? And that's what we're talking about in this session. We're talking about how your partners down your sales channel can become cash cows with rental equipment and fabrication. So it starts with controlling the narrative. And what do I mean by controlling the narrative? I mean driving the expectation. And that's the theme, right, for this week's infusion. It's driving the expectation. You have to optimize your rental fleet and fabrication opportunities. And how you do that are the sources for selling the products and marketing the products into the industry. They're the ones that have to create that expectation. They have to control the perception and drive that expectation so everyone can learn how to make more money in this process. And during this presentation, we're going to talk about what that looks like. How do we get there? I'm going to show you different models and how you can make those decisions to get where you're going, because it's really kind of simple when we lay it out. I'm a very visual person, so I'm actually using pictures, and that will be very helpful for me. I don't know about you guys, but and then there's some math in there, and I don't want John Lee out to check it for me, just trust me. And so we want to talk about what's in it for the end user, all right? We talked about yesterday, Dr. Mark said, what's in it for me? What was the? Within, right, yeah. What's in it for me? At the end of the day, what's in it for me? We're talking about that person that's going to have a rental fleet, or that person that's going to have a fabrication operation. What's in it for them? We're going to talk about what's in it for them and show them how to become a cash cow. Because at the end, what we want to do is we want to show them how to turn the pile of money that is a fleet of equipment into different piles of money, into additional piles of money over the time that they own that equipment. So does anybody know what the theme of this company was? What company was this? The Earth's biggest bookstore. Who had that theme?
Amazon.
What's that?
Amazon.
Amazon.com. That's correct. Back in 1994. I was on the internet using AOL. For those of you who weren't born past like 1985 or something, AOL was a subscription service that you got free hours by picking up discs at Kinko's. For those of you who don't know, Kinko's is what FedEx office used to be called. Okay.
Oh, it's a history lesson.
Yeah, it is. So anyway, there were all these discs that you would pick up and change your email name and your screen name just so you could get the free hours to load up. So. Anyway, that's another presentation at 6. Anyway, 1994, Jeff Bezos, this nerdy book guy who now makes rocket ships, starts a website to sell books, right? And he's just selling books. They're not like electronic books. They're paperback and hardback books, right? It's Barnes & Noble online, okay? And he started to gain some traction with people who didn't want to go into shops. Right? That wanted to buy online. So by 1998, he said, hey, for those who like to buy books, they might want to buy their own music and movies online too. So in 1998, he adds more inventory to his website, Amazon.com, and starts selling books, movies, CDs, cassettes, albums, 8-track were available, and all these different things. So now he's starting to say, hey, you don't have to go to Best Buy to get this, you don't have to go to Barnes & Noble to get this, you can come to Amazon.com and get all these different things. So by 2005, he launches Prime, which is now a subscription service that you pay an annual fee and you don't have to pay for shipping. Wow, how much do I pay in shipping? I order things online. By 2005, I was probably at least ordering, 20, 30 things online, and at $6.95 a pop, that I can save money. Then he eventually turns it into 2-day shipping, and then he adds his streaming service on there. Now he's driving people to his website because not only am I getting free shipping to buy stuff, and I don't have to worry about going to the store, I can watch movies and TV shows too. This is fantastic. So he's creating this expectation of people to come and buy books and buy music and use his service to buy anything that ships to them within 2 days. And by 2010, there were more books, electronic books being sold than actual hardback or paperback books. And that's because of folks like Amazon. He creates Kindle, which is the Amazon version, but he was also selling electronic versions for iPads and tablets and things of that nature. So he's driving this expectation, like, don't buy a book, don't be wasteful, don't make a book out of a tree, just use something you've already got. Creating an expectation, right? And in 2015, he created Prime Day. So does everybody know that Prime Day ended yesterday? There was Prime Days were the 10th and the 11th, right? Did anybody go buy anything on Prime Day?
I liked it. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
All the way.
I spent like $600 the past 2 days, and my wife's boxes are going to be riding while I'm down there because some of this, she's going to be, what did you do? Yeah, he creates Prime Day. It's the expectation. And you know what's funny about the things that I bought is I decided I was going to get those things last week. And normally I would have bought them, but why did I wait?
Because you knew you'd get it cheaper.
Because I knew that Prime Day was coming and I saved $100. He's creating this expectation about spending the money. And I probably didn't need to buy everything I needed to buy right now, but I did because it was Prime Day. Because some of those things weren't on sale. Now, if you're Jeff Bezos, you create a company that makes you so rich you can make your own rocket ship, all right? But I'm not saying that through a rental fleet or through a fab shop that you're going to become the next Jeff Bezos. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that there are opportunities for you and your partners down the sales channel line to create opportunities for yourselves to make more money and in this business and not worry about the cost up front, okay? Because there is a value to that. And there's a value to you being a one-stop shop. There's a value to being an expert. There's a value to being able to go to someone and say, hey, don't worry about how we're going to accommodate this project. I can take care of the needs right here, or I can direct you to those needs. That is driving the expectation. It's not panic mode of, oh yeah, there's a project, don't worry, we'll make it happen, we'll make it work for you, we just need you to commit. You need to drive the expectation. You need to become the total solution and be the expert. And by having things like a rental fleet and even potentially not just a small fabrication operation or the outlet to go to a small fabrication operation, these are the types of things that are going to help you incentivize the customer to know that you've got the answers for them. I want you to focus on opportunity over price. Everybody thinks about the cost of things. And I know polypropylene has started off having a difficult time getting out of the gate because equipment's expensive. The pipe, valve, and fitting market doesn't think about tools that are going to be $5,000, $15,000, $20,000, right? They're used to less expensive equipment, considerably less expensive equipment, right? But if you're focusing on the opportunity over the price, you skip over that part and let them know where the growth can be and simplify it, which is what we're going to do here in a moment on a couple of examples. You let them know the opportunity is here for you. to be the expert, to be a total source, to be a total solution. The question is, how do you show them the way to do that? I'm hoping we're going to do that here. So, prioritizing a positive experience has always come from the perspective of, we're going to go on the job site and we're going to show them exactly how to do the job right. And that's been great by all of our pipe partners and anybody that's included us, from reps to distributors and those industry partners who create the pipe, who go out and make the job experience fantastic there while they're training them on the job site to make sure things are going well. But how can you create a positive experience for them by creating the expectation that they can be part of the solution from the beginning, to make sure they have the right equipment, to make sure they have the right resources. Those are the types of positive experiences that we're talking about creating, which is different than the positive experiences we've already gained a lot of traction with since the polypropylene market came about 15 years ago in the United States. So right now, we're going to focus on a rental fleet, okay? And I want you to think about these perspectives. I used this yesterday to kind of explain where you should be looking at things from, as how in that chair, whether or not you're a machine manufacturer or you're the pipe manufacturer, the distributor, wholesaler, or the rep firm, or a contractor, okay? So this is how you would look at it. From a machine guy like myself, I'm going to be looking at this rental fleet as, I want to make sure that you've got the right tools in your shop to accommodate all the jobs that you have. Because remember that stack of money that I showed you that I want you to turn into additional stacks of money? I don't want that stack of money sitting in a corner collecting dust. I want that stack of money to be able to be productive for you. And if I direct you to get a machine that you're not going to use just because I want to sell one of those machines, that's not me doing you a service, okay? That's part of creating a positive experience, okay? So I don't want to do that. So that's my perspective. From the pipe manufacturer perspective, you want to have all the solutions in front of you immediately without having to scramble to find those tools. I see Fred and Clinton here and Matt, who I've worked with for many years, where I know from time to time, as we've tried to grow this market, where the right tools haven't been there, and we're scrambling to try to find someone who can have that resource for them to get it in the right place before the job goes. This is a way, and this concept is a way to help explain that to folks so they make sure that they've got the right pieces in place so none of us are having to scramble like that. And again, we'll go back to creating that positive experience for them and prioritizing the opportunity for them over the price of what's going to cost them to get started. A distributor or wholesaler or even a rep firm, pretty much in the same situation, although the distributor or wholesaler, they're the ones that are going to be making the investment. So these are the guys, or these are the folks that you're going to need to make sure you prioritize that opportunity over cost and drive expectation for them for what they can expect over, say, a 5-year period of opportunity and revenue, so it's worth their while. The rep firm, if there's any reps in the room, I would imagine your perspective is going to be, okay, my job is to go out and sell the pipe, sell the machines. How am I going to sell that opportunity if I don't have the resources in line? I've got to help that pipe company and that machine company go in and pitch this concept of opportunity over cost, and that's where your mindset is. And then say a contractor for a rental fleet, that contractor on the rental fleet side needs to know my folks who I'm getting machines from and who I'm getting pipe from are going to have the resources for me to give me the positive experience. That's what they're looking for. So if you sit in any of those seats in this room, you can resonate with one of these positions. And that's what we're talking about as we go through the next few slides here about rental fleets. So, a lot of times, this is what I get when someone comes to me and says, I need to buy tools now, do you have an intro package? And my question is like, oh, you mean a cookie cutter package? Just a bunch of tools that you don't know if you're going to need or not? Is that really? I don't say that. I don't say it like that. But that's my thought is, why would I make an intro package? That's not customizable. That's not creating a positive experience for you. I need to know more about what you're going to be doing. Another question I'll get is, or a comment I'll get is like, I just think I'll get one of everything. Okay, well, if you got one of everything, we haven't even talked about what type of pipe you're using or what sizes you're looking at. do you think you'll use it all, or is it just gonna sit over there and get some dust on it? Because I don't want you to have a bad experience with just having a pile of money in the corner. That's not what we're looking for. Well, I'm all in, I promise I'm all in, but I'm just gonna wait until I get my first job before I buy everything. And we know how that works out, right? That doesn't work out very well, because what happens if all the material comes in and all of a sudden they want to start the next week, or they decide, hey, all the right people are going to be here, we're going to train them now, even though the job starts in 3 weeks, and you don't have any of the machines, and all of a sudden they decided to go back to other material or another source for the right machines. These are not the type of questions or comments that we need to be creating the expectation for, whether we're a pipe or machine or a rep or a wholesaler even. We need to start thinking about it this way, okay? We need to erase all that, and if we're driving the expectation here, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask them, what type of pipe sizes are you, pipe sizes, wall thicknesses, what are you stocking, what are you looking at? And well, they're gonna say, well, here are the pipe sizes I'm gonna focus on. And that gives me an idea of what machines we should be talking about. I'm not going to sell you one of everything, because if those pipe sizes are not what your focus is, I don't want you to have them right now. Let's wait until that's a focus of yours, okay? I want you to be productive on the job site so you can make the most productivity for your contractors so they have the best experience and they have a great opportunity. So the question comes back, well, how can my contractor be the most productive? Well, we need to have multiple machines, because if you have 2 machines for that one job and that one size, you're going to be able to piggyback or leapfrog. So I'm going to set up my fusion here. I'm going to get into the cooling stage once the ends of pipe are together, and then I'm going to take the next machine. I'm going to put it on the next bead or next weld spot. I'm going to start that. Once that gets to the cooling stage, I'm going to take this one off and move it to the next one. I think we've done that very demonstration in this very room at this hotel for the first time. We did a productivity demonstration to show how you can be productive. You got to have multiple machines, right? And then when do you need these machines? They might say, well, how soon can I get the equipment? That's a great question. Let's talk about the timing. Now, for those of you that want to know, everything up to 12 inch with our polypropylene equipment is within a 2-week lead time. 14 and above, we need to ask about it. We're actually stocking up on some of those items, which is unlike how we typically operate. The good news is, through our expansion, I think they've talked about it, we're going to be working on stocking sizes in our smaller diameter, and that includes polypropylene. So going into 2024, we're going to be able to have more inventory to ship things out faster, which we haven't before. So this is going to be a lot for John to count when it's time. So there's the rental fleet concept, and those are the things that really you need to drive either the contractor or the wholesaler to look at it that way, okay? Not, hey, there's just a basic thing, just send me that, or what's the minimum, send me that. These are the type of conversations we need to have with them from the start so they have that expectation of what they're getting into. All right, so real quick, how do I decide what are the right tools? Well, I've got this little grid, and I told you I like pictures, so here we go. If you're gonna focus on up to 6-inch pipe, you're definitely gonna need heater heads, heaters, a spider, and an Acrobat 160. Absolutely, 100% you're gonna need those. Additional options that you want to talk about: a Hornet Polygon LT, a Polygon Smart Fab, data logger, and hot tack tooling. Okay, those are things that we're going to talk about. You're going to have folks do their own fusion outlets. Most people are going to go ahead and bring a Hornet in. A lot of folks decide that they should have gotten a Smart Fab in earlier than they do. Because once someone uses a Smart Fab as a production tool, that thing is just like a beast. So that's something that's pretty much high on the radar. Data loggers and hot tap tools and polygons usually come later, but that doesn't mean you can't start with those. So those are the types of conversations we have. Oh, and remember we talked about piggybacking and leapfrogging? You're going to want 2 of these guys over here because you got to be productive. You got to be able to do one and get to the cool cycle when it's welding and start the next one. All right. If you're going to go up to 10-inch, let's talk about the Acrobat 250. All right. So the Acrobat 250 is going to do everything that the 160 can do if you have all the right inserts. So it comes with inserts to do 6-inch and 8-inch, and the jaws do 10-inch. If you buy the 125 millimeter inserts, it's going to do exactly what the 160 gives you. So your opportunity here might be to get just the spider and socket heads and your additional options here and a 250, or you can go ahead and bring in a 160 or two, depending on where your budget is there. But no matter what, you still want to have two of them, right? Two of them. And then, of course, in additional options over here, we've added the Hornet XL. Hornet, the smaller Hornet will do up to 2-inch outlets on mains up to 24-inch, and then the Hornet XL will do 2-inch outlets up to 4-inch outlets on mains all the way up to 24-inch, and it will do up to 6-inch outlets on mains up to 14-inch. So now you're looking at it, you're looking up to 10-inch, where we're going for what we need for a rental fleet, and these are the machines you're talking about. What if I'm going up to 12-inch? Well, you need to look at the Acrobat 315, because that's going to give you 8, 10, and 12-inch opportunities, and you're going to need two. Now, I have seen some folks decide to just bring in one 315, but again, we're always going to recommend two of each to make sure you can be productive on the job site. And then if you're going up to 24-inch, you need an Acrobat Quick Fit package. You know, it comes in the 1416 or the 1820 or the 2224 packages, or the whole 14 to 24 package. And you can look at it that way and bring that in. Great tool, and we will show up on site to unpackage it with you when it's delivered. So that's part of what we want to do to introduce this to folks who have a new experience with it. We want to make sure they understand it. If you want just a production mode quick fit, just a machine up to 24-inch on the ground, just doing production stuff, then you'll want to get the Acrobat Quick Fit Core package with the Acrobat Inserts package, and that would be similar to just getting a full quick fit, but you're not going to take that one overhead. So if you want to know the formula and the path to get to a rental fleet, this is how you do it. You just break it down, you put it in a grid, and you go, okay, well, this isn't that hard to figure out what I need to do. I know the pipe sizes that I'm looking at. I know what type of outlets I may be using. I know if I'm going to need any prefabrication stuff with a smart fab. I know if I'm going to have to do any tracking with a data logger. I can figure out what I need for a rental fleet just by looking at something like this. But where is the opportunity over the cost? Because that's what I want to know about. So let's look at a financial model. This is where I really sweat. No, I'm kidding. Just with like mathematicians in the room. So here are our assumptions here, okay? We're going to say $100,000 in equipment and the cost is $80,000 to the distributor, okay? And we're going to say that the rental rate is 8% of the list price value. We're going to call it $8,000. Just think of $8,000 a month, okay? We're going to pretend like that $8,000 a month just gets utilized 30% of the time. And you keep it for 5 years, and when you resell it, you're going to sell it for 70 grand. That's when you buy your new fleet, right? So, unreimbursed labor and repair, we're going to take 5% of that list price and call it $5,000. And let's just say you put a loan on that equipment at 7%, according to bankrate.com. I'll list it down here in the corner. Just want to make sure I had my T's dotted and my I's crossed. So anyway, 7%, that would be $18,807. So those are our assumptions. Now, we'll take the rental rate at 30% of the time. That's $2,400. So 30% of $8,000 is $2,400. $2,400 times 60, those who follow the calendar, that is 5 years. And that brings in $144,000 in rental cash flow. We'll go to the next screen. And I want to remind you, we spent 80 grand from the start. So $144,000 in rental cash flow, $70,000 in residual value that you're going to sell that stuff for later. And remember the labor costs that you don't get reimbursed for and the interest, we're going to take off $23,807. That's going to give you $190,000. Oh, there's a cash cow somewhere. 237% return right there on that. You know what that's just on machines over 5 years on just $80,000, okay? Obviously you're doing a lot of work selling pipe during that time, and you get margins on that pipe. So that 237% return does not include the margin on the materials that you're selling. That's a nice little investment. That is showing them how the cost is outweighed by the opportunity, because that's not a huge investment there, okay? This is just kind of a basic overview. I'm sure there's much better business plan formulas to look at, but this is just basic, right? So what we've done here is shown you how to turn that pile of money into a bigger pile of money at 237%. Yes?
How did you come up with that residual value?
The residual value, so if you look at price increases over a 5-year period and where that might come in, we got an estimate of about a discount off of a future price to resell it at $70,000. If equipment that's 5 years old is still has quite a value of it, of the equipment, and if you compare that 5-year-old equipment to new equipment, that's going to be a pretty significant discount by that time. I can't tell you where we actually looked at the price in the future, where it might be, but we came up with that. It's a random number. We could subtract that by $10,000 and we'd still come up with about 225%.
Yeah, I was just curious, like
yeah.
what you use for, obviously, increases happen, so it's all relative.
Yeah.
But what you use to essentially sell that piece at a replacement cost of, like a percentage of a replacement cost. I was curious if you had a number in your mind.
No, and I'll tell you the truth, on the 8% too, that's not an actual number that anybody has told us they use on the 8% for rental rate either. It's just a conservative number that we've looked at numbers to determine how we do that, or how our partners list out their own pricing on their rate cards. So there's no exact science to it. I've got used equipment from demo tool packages that we value based on when it went out and what its price was at the time, and to try to determine that versus what a current price is and see what a good value would be to go out. So there's not a Carfax or an Auto Trader out there to help us with that. I wish there was.
And some of it's just with the marketplace.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like right now, there's really, tools are hard to come by.
Yeah. So
What about insurance?
Considerably higher than maybe they will be 5 years from now.
well, let's get some more of those questions when we get to the end of the, because we still have fabrication to talk about. So let's get to some of those questions when we get to the end of the presentation. So let's talk about fabrication. I want to make sure that you know that with fabrication, if you're going to create a small fabrication operation in your facility, there's still the chance to add value to what you're doing for your customer base and your customer line, your sales channel line, to be the total solution, the expert, to be able to create opportunities over cost and prioritize a positive experience. And I want you guys to look at the perspectives here on fabrication as opposed to looking at it from a rental perspective. So a machine manufacturer like myself would say, hey, you guys are doing a lot of work out at the job site, or you're doing a lot of work on the site in the rafters or on pipe stands. Before you're allowed to do the job site, is there any work that you can do beforehand inside the shop? Is there anything you can do earlier? Those are the type of things that I'm looking at, because we've got the resources for you to make that happen. As a pipe manufacturer, you know, pipe manufacturers have the opportunity to create fabrication on their own, right? And so we have some really good fabrication shops that get very busy through our pipe partners. At the same time, they could get a relief by having some of their own partners on down the line do some of their own basic fabrication while they do the specialized fittings, and that's going to take a burden off them, and everything's going to be easier to flow and get out on the job sites faster. From a distributor or wholesaler perspective, if you're a distributor or wholesaler that already has a fabrication operation, why aren't you already considering polypropylene or plastics as part of your fabrication operation? That's something you consider. Or a distributor or wholesaler perspective could look at it and say, I've got a contractor who operates that way. Let me talk to them to see if they have, you know, the urge to go down that road. So a rep firm, great opportunity for you to pick out those opportunities with wholesalers that you see that do this, or contractors that you see that do this, and bring that to the attention to your pipe company and your machine manufacturer, so you can bring those together. And then the contractor, their perspective is, can you help me in fabrication, whether I'm the fabricator or you're the fabricator, and can we make this work? Those are the types of concepts that, and the perspectives each one of these guys would be looking at. So, fabrication. And I kind of talked through this a little bit. I mean, the definition is the process of manufacturing or inventing something. That's it. And these guys are doing it all the time, whether they're fabbing steel, right? It's contractors and both distributors and wholesalers, they're doing that already. So why aren't they looking at the opportunity to fabricate some of their own stuff in their own shop with equipment that they may already have, or equipment that they can get because they're in the polypropylene game? What's in it for them? With them. All right, so here's the formula for success. First, you look at the specialty fittings from your manufacturer or your larger distributor partner. I know I can think of 3 polypropylene specific fabrication operations in the country right now that do fantastic work, right? That stay busy a lot of the time. And those guys could help, could use some relief in some of the standardized fabrication that goes on. So making the specialty fittings would be key for them to pass on to a smaller operation who has macro equipment that can run a fabrication operation. So you want to get those specialty fittings where you don't have the T's and the X's and the Y machines in your shop as a small operation, where those folks do have that. Or the big spool pieces and things like that that you would want to make. Those folks can make those for you, and then you can do other fab work in your shop. You utilize your own equipment. If you're going to have a rental fleet, this type of equipment can be used as, whether it's a specific fab shop operation with just fab equipment, or you're borrowing from your own rental fleet to bring it over. You're creating a one-stop shop for your customer base. So now you're not only telling them that not only can I sell you the product or can I install your product, but I can make that fabrication operation here, and I can do it for you, and I can do it for anybody else who brings that to me. Again, bring it for anybody else. Do it for anybody else that brings it to them, okay? You can create an outlet for others to come to you. So you're not just creating fabrication for the jobs that you're working on, but you're creating fabrication opportunities for other people that are in your region or across the country. Let's look at this map right here. Man, this computer is like dying a slow death. Okay, so let's say you are a wholesaler or a contractor who's decided to bring in some equipment where you're going to focus on fabrication. You know, not the X's and Y's and the T's and the big stuff, but some modest fabrication opportunities in your market. Say you're in Bakersfield. You can become an outlet for people in your entire region that they start to learn, whether they're with your pipe company or not. You can become an outlet to be a resource for them. And that product can come into you, goes to you, you fabricate it for them, and you send it back to them, and you save your pipe mate, your pipe partner some time, and you save them some time and worry, because now you've just created more capacity to do fabrication. That model doesn't just have to happen on the West Coast. I mean, if the slide works, there's a cool graph. Yeah, see, there it goes. You could be in Omaha, Nebraska, and you could be that outlet for everybody to do that type of work. So let's talk about what machines we're talking about. Jeff, are you talking about the big machines that you see where you've got, it goes down and it's got all these rollers and it's doing automation? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about basic McElroy equipment that you can do some of your own fusion outlets, some of your own miters on smaller sizes, and things that reducers and things like that in your shop. So let's talk about, if you're going to work on stuff up to 250 millimeter, how do we look at that? Well, you definitely want to have a spider and socket fusion heads and socket heaters, okay? You got to have those, and you definitely want a smart fab. I don't think there's a fabrication shop out of the three that I mentioned that doesn't have a smart fab in it. Those things are beasts. They are workhorses, and they are going to do the best socket fusions out of any hand socket or any mechanical socket fusion machine that's out there. They are the absolute best, and they work great. So you're going to want those to be in your fleet. For fabrication up to 250 millimeter, an Acrobat 250. You don't need to waste your time on an Acrobat 160 because that thing's not going overhead, okay? The Acrobat 250 is the machine that you're going to use in production mode on the ground. It's going to do everything that the 160 does. You just got to make sure you got all the right inserts. And that'll do 63 millimeter all the way up to 250 millimeter butt fusion if you want. So a polygon that will do miters and butt fusion up to 160 millimeter. Miters to do your own fabrication fittings up to 6 inch, okay? Plus, if you buy the spider job package with it, you can add an additional bench top that does 2 to 4 inch socket fusion. So up to 10 inch, you're in good shape right there, plus your Hornets, both your Hornets, with the appropriate fusion outlet heads. Right? You're going to want to buy those as needed, or at least the ones that are most popular. If you talk to your pipe company and find out which ones are the most popular that they sell, that they see on jobs, you make sure you're prepared with those type of fusion outlet heads, and you have those on your shelf ready to use. That would be a good 10 inch, up to 10 inch fab operation for you to do small stuff. You're going up to 12 inch, add a 315. If you're going up to 24 inch, add a quick fit core package with the quick fit insert package, and you can do 10 inch up to 24 inch with the inserts, okay? And that's just on the ground. That part of the quick fit is not the one that we recommend taking overhead, although it can be done. The original quick fit packages are the ones that we recommend using overhead, but this, from a production standpoint, on the ground all day long, being able to take inserts in and out of it to do different runs, short runs of different sizes, makes it super easy. So what about some quality assurance? Hey Jeff, I'd love to do a fab operation, but how do I know people are going to trust my work, and how do I know my work can be trusted? Well, first of all, every one of these pipe companies has done a great job of creating a pipe installer certification program. And you can't get the benefits of their warranty or insurance programs without having a certification through their company, right? You've got to go through their training to make sure that you're an installer that's certified for their pipe. It makes sense, it needs to happen. Then McElroy, we would put you through the McElroy qualified operator training. You want to be a qualified operator because you want to be able to show that card to say the guys that are working in our shop are the ones who are qualified to do this, because not only are they pipe certified through the pipe company, but they're machine certified through the machine manufacturer. And then lastly, you're going to want a data logger to be used with these things. The reason why is when you make a fitting, or you make a spool piece, or you make any type of fabrication, you're going to be able to take pictures, add notes, upload it to the vault, and have a certified graph, or a graph depicting whether or not that fusion process was followed, with all the data based on fusion with with the visual indications that the welds look correct, then you can share that later with the people that you sell that product to. You can print out the PDF, share that with them when it's delivered. These are quality assurances that you can make you feel safe that you've done the right things. But I wouldn't do it without all three of these things, because you want to make sure you've got the proof to hand over to whomever that piece is going to. Okay, so there's the model. It looks pretty easy to determine where you need to go with that. So how do we look at the financial model of it? So we're gonna make some assumptions. First, since it's a fabrication job, we're gonna look at the materials that go on this job. So this is a very basic job. It's very, and this actually was pulled with MCAA labor numbers, MCAA machine charge numbers, and actual quantities from an actual job that was quoted out from a pipe partner. Okay, first, 1 to 4 inch socket fusion, about 100 feet of that. Socket reducers, there were 6 of them. Socket fusion fittings, there were 11. 51 4 to 8 inch flange adapters. Butt fusion fittings, there were 20. Fusion outlets, there were 36. Butt fusion reducers, there were 6. And 6 to 8 inch butt fusions, approximately 100 feet. That material was just $27,500. It was actually $27,589, but like I rounded down, so I just full disclosure. But that's the material cost. That's not a big job, right? That's a small job to do to create whatever it was they were making. Okay, so let's make some more assumptions here. Here are the machines that you're going to need for this, and I based it on what the fusions were needed on this, right? That's how I based it. So we're gonna need 1 spider, we're gonna need 1 set of socket heaters and heads, so that's a full set, half inch to 4 inch, which is 20 millimeter to 125 millimeter, a large heater, a small heater, and an auxiliary heater handle for the large heater, 1 smart fab, 1 Hornet, 3 fusion outlet heads, and 2 Acrobat 250s. That's the way I priced it out, because the way the formula priced out, we needed to have 2 butt fusion machines to do a certain number of hours. Total machine investment at list price. Oh, let me go back. The $27,500, that was list price, okay? So if you're a contractor, that's the total you're looking at. If you're a wholesaler, you've got margin in there, all right? For this equipment, if you're a contractor, this is the price you're looking at. If you're a wholesaler, you've got some margin in there. So we're gonna look at it just from list price numbers. So it's $80,000 investment, and I did not, when I started putting this together, I did not plan for the $80,000 to come out to $80,000. I really didn't. I didn't plan out for those machines. Okay, it was actually like $80,700, but I rounded it down to $80,000 to make it look good, because it matches up with the $80,000 we talked about earlier. So I was like, this is working out. It's all meant to be. And so we made those assumptions based on this particular project. Again, MCAA numbers are giving us what this pricing is. It's a conservative model, okay, of what it might look like. You could charge something different. You could up the MCAA numbers if you wanted, but this is how I looked at it based on these things. Mechanical Contractors Association of America, right? Is that what MCAA stands for? Thank you. Some people say, okay, excellent. So the spider, the hours that you would charge to work on the spider, it's 30 hours, it's gonna be $150. The Smart Fab, 24 hours of use, $234. This is machine usage, guys. So this is like mileage, all right? That's what we're talking about here. Hornet, be $100 charge for 20 hours. Acrobat 250, one of them is gonna be 40 hours at $680. And the other Acrobat 250 would be 51 hours at $867. The labor charge is going to be $100 per hour, and the total hours is 165 hours. Okay? Make sense? Sound good? So that total is $18,531. Here's what I did. I know there's an employee burden on hourly wage, and I wanted to make sure that I was giving a pretty conservative depiction of this. So I overestimated what the employee burden is. Now, according to workyard.com, the typical employee burden on on a labor charge would be 24%. So I went to 40% on this, just to take off 40%. And then, remember whenever I created that whole $18,807 of all the costs that you would go through? If you had equipment for over 5 years and you divided that by 60 months, that would come up to $400. So I just said, okay, we're gonna call it a month of wear and tear on this thing and investment costs, I'm gonna take off another $400. So the net here on this job, on just this, is $10,719. All right, so let's go back to our other screen. Your original investment was 80 grand. Machine and labor income is $10,719. Could you do that 5 times in a year? Because if you do that 5 times in a year, you're gonna fall just short of your original investment. So if you did it 5 times a year, every single year, on just $27,500 worth of material projects, that's 25 times. That's $267,907. So $268,000 essentially, divided by the $80,000 investment. That's 335,000% or 335,000%. It's a long week, folks. 335% return. And remember, we're not including the margin on materials. And if you're a wholesaler, we're not even including the margin on the machines. So there's your cash cow. That's right. Took a pile of money, we turned it into a bigger pile of money. In this, here are the advantages. You build your model. You look at it, you optimize that opportunity over the cost. You make sure you say, here's the opportunity that's in front of you. If you ask someone, would you like to increase an investment over a 5-year period of just $80,000, would you want to increase that 335%? I think most people would say yes, right? Or 237%, I think people would say yes. But you got to tell that story for success. Whether you're the pipe guy, whether you're the rep guy, whether you're the wholesaler, you got to be able to go out and tell that story for success. You've got to drive that expectation. If you don't paint that picture for them, that they've got that opportunity in front of them, then they're not going to know it. And if you act concerned about what they're going to think of the cost up front, then they're going to be concerned. You know what the right thing is, because I know we talk all the time. They got to have the equipment to be able to have success. And we've seen the folks that have had the most success are the ones who have had the equipment. They've made the investment. And they know because they became the resource for everybody to come get in. Because they're the type of folks that we send other people to when they're out. The folks that don't buy the equipment, that are missing out, we're sending them to the folks who did invest in those opportunities and are making the most out of it. So, great way to expand the revenue base. And this is the way you think beyond just selling the pipe and selling the tools. This is how you make even more money out of your investment. With that, does anybody have any questions? Thoughts?
Very well done.
Oh, thank you. Well, coming from a distributor too, I appreciate that because
Your math's off, but that's okay.
I knew it'd be a little bit off, but I mean,
You got the point across.
you got the point across, yeah. I mean, it's about right. I had to run this through a team of people, and one of those happened to be a former accountant too. So I had to run this through some folks. It was, it's just basic. Again, that's not the way I would write out, or someone would write out a formal business plan, but it gives you the concept of there is an opportunity to make money out there. So, and it's not that hard to figure out what you need in a rental fleet, and it's not that hard to figure out what you need in a fab operation. I know there are folks out there that are doing this right now with the fab operation. They're starting. There are folks that have purchased equipment just for that, and they are making that happen because they're doing just this. So
The only thing not in your formula is the building.
overhead, yeah, and
I mean, that just when you talk about a fab shop, you got to have the building.
right. And with the fab shop too, what I didn't say is whenever I went to 40% on that, I was hoping to include some of that overhead that I couldn't get out of it because I overshot that pretty.
Yeah.
So.
And insurance, you need to put insurance on your rental fleet, you surely insure your tool.
Sure. They're also, yeah, and your building's gonna, that's part of that overhead and everything, so. And at the same time, if those numbers came out to be, 50% of where they are right now. That's still an investment on just their machines and not anything to do with any of the piping that they make money off of, so. Because they're gonna make money on the pipe. They're gonna traditionally make more money on the pipe altogether, because if you have a rental fleet, you're buying the machines once. Well, I say that. Rental off, there are companies that are here today. I'm gonna back that up. There are companies here today, and you've heard about them, where all they do is rent McElroy machines. Their whole business model. Of course, that expands into HDPE, but AH McElroy, that's all they did, you know. Brain sales, that's all they do. So, anyway, this was a fun one to put together. So I appreciate you guys being here and all the questions and testing my brain with some of the challenging ones too, because this one was the riskiest one for me, not being a very good math person. I ain't good at math, so did have some help. Anyway, anybody else have any questions or thoughts? All right, well, if you're ready to get a fab shop going, let me know. I'm taking POs before you guys leave today. See you at the reception.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right,
Yeah.
I enthusiastically thank you for coming. Anybody get the Chick-fil-A? Use more pie?
That was
Oh, thank. Yeah.